It's the 1st of October, which means it's time for our second annual 31 Days of Halloween, where I post a spooky story every day. Last year I made it to day 12, let's see how far we get this time. This year it's all about nostalgia, diving into 90s kids' supernatural Bible, the Usborne Books of Ghosts. Did every kid have this, or was it just me? Our first story takes us way back to the very first recorded sighting of a ghost. In the Epic of Gilgamesh, written around 2000 BC, the hero Gilgamesh has an adventure that involves a ghostly encounter. One tale, called He Who Sees the Unknown, tells how Gilgamesh encounters the ghost of his dead friend. The spirit appears to him as a transparent shape, proving that as long as there have been people, there have been ghosts. And that's just the beginning. We've made it to day 2 already, and we're staying with the ancients today, going back to the BC Romans and Greeks, who both love a good ghost story, and being dramatic about it. It's actually raining outside right now. It's literally perfect. One of the earliest recorded instances of a haunted house was in Athens 2,000 years ago. A villa that was said to be haunted was plagued by a mournful spectre, who wandered the rooms each night, clanking heavy prison manacles and iron chains, which bound his hands and feet. It drove the occupants out of the villa, and one even died from fright. The next occupant, Anithodorus, who got a great deal on rent, was working one evening when he heard the ominous sounds of the ghost. He continued to ignore it until the ghost simply gave up and went to the courtyard and vanished. The next day, the spot where the ghost had disappeared was dug up, and a skeleton was found, shackled to a mound of rusting chains. The remains were buried in a cemetery, and the ghost was never seen again. The Romans also loved a good spooky tale. In 44 BC, Brutus, an army general, plotted to murder Julius Caesar, stabbing him to death with his conspirators. Shortly after, Brutus was visited by a terrifying spirit, claiming to be the ghost of Julius Caesar. It appeared to him again the night before battle, and Brutus took it to be a terrible omen of doom. He lost the battle the next day, and took his own life. Come back tomorrow for day 3, and a story of ghosts and witch hunts. Day 3 is here, and so is a new ghost story. We're doing pretty well, actually. Today we're getting super modern, all the way up to 1751, when the ghost of Thomas Coley. But this is not a simple haunting. It involves witch hunts and giant dog spectres. Thomas Coley, a chimney sweep in the village of Tring in England, was the leader of a mob that hunted and killed a couple in a brutal witch hunt. John and Ruth Osborne were seized by the mob from the workhouse, dragged through the streets to be beaten and drowned in a nearby pond. Ruth was dragged through the water repeatedly until Coley pushed her under the water with a stick, and she drowned. Coley was convicted of her murder and was sentenced to death by hanging. His body was suspended from gallows inside a gibbet and left to hang as a warning to other lawbreakers. It was believed that a person's spirit could not go on to the afterlife if they did not have a proper burial, and the gallows were placed at a crossroads so his ghost would become confused by the roads and not find its way back to town to take revenge on those who sentenced him to death. Day 4 tomorrow of our 31 Days of Halloween ghost stories, where we'll be looking at poltergeists. Don't miss it. Day 4 of 31 Days of Halloween, and we're sticking with our ghost Bible, the Usborne Book of Ghosts. Moving on to poltergeists. Arguably the most terrifying of hauntings, poltergeist activity can involve moving objects, such as cups, dishes, and cutlery, flying through the air at top speed. It can be things moving from where you left them, or feeling very cold, or too hot to handle. According to studies, poltergeists usually make themselves known when children between the ages of 12 and 16 are present. One theory guesses that their minds possess a mysterious power needed for the violent activity. Arguably the most famous poltergeist is that of the Enfield haunting. A spirit calling itself Bill moved furniture, threw items through the air, and talked through the 11-year-old girl, Janet, in a deep, guttural voice, claiming to have died there several years earlier. Elaborate hoax or terrifying supernatural phenomena? Whichever it is, it's fun to be scared by the stories. Come back tomorrow for day 5, where we'll be looking at strange ghost rituals from around the world. See you then. Back to our ghost book for day 5 of 31 Days of Halloween. October's flying by already. Time to think of a costume. What are you going as? Through the ages, people have come up with many and varied ways of protecting themselves from ghosts. This could include loud noises or fire, trying to trick them, or practicing strange rituals. What the Romans called lemures were the restless spirits of people who led evil lives. They held special festivals in May to drive out the ghosts, and still consider it bad luck to be married in May. They would pound drums and hold celebrations, hoping the noise would scare them away. And they would burn black beans by gravesides to ward off the spirits with the bad smell. During the witch hunts of the 17th century, ghosts were particularly feared. This caused Reverend Dodge from the southwest of England to run through roads and graveyards with a whip to scare off unseen spirits. Legend has it, he once scared a ghost so badly, it gave out a cry and disappeared, never to be seen again. But hopefully I'll be seeing you again for day 6 tomorrow, and we'll be investigating the best place to actually see a ghost. Day 6 of our 31 Days of Halloween, and the haunted houses and Halloween trails are starting to get busy. Have you been to one yet? Was it scary? Delving back into our ghost Bible, we're now exploring where is best to find a ghost. Because, then we can avoid it. Or go there at night. Traditionally, the places thought most likely to be haunted are places where there have been mass deaths, or particularly violent ones. Elm trees are especially associated with death and hauntings, because the boughs were thought to be low enough and sturdy enough for hangings. One sturdy elm could see hundreds of hangings, resulting in fear and superstition that still persists about them. Battlefields are another area of mass death that are frequently reported as haunted. Bannockburn and Culloden are 2 very famous Scottish battlefields that have had numerous sightings of ghostly soldiers, still trapped at their death site. A graveyard is perhaps most feared as a haunted place, but as most people did not die at a graveyard, it's not the optimum place to find a ghost. In ancient European mythology, the only ghost that was believed to be at a graveyard was the graveyard guardian, which watched for evil spirits and intruders. When burial sites were established, there was a ritual of sacrificing a living person to act as guardian when they passed on. Come back tomorrow for day 7 and stories of ghosts at sea. Day 7, and we are flying through our 31 Days of Halloween ghost stories. Before you know it, Halloween will have been and gone, but I'll still be here with the spooky tales and history. Our Book of Ghosts takes us out into the oceans today, with tales from long ago of pirates and sailors who lost their lives but still sail the salty seas. Captain Kidd in 1701 was hanged and his body placed in a gibbet for his pirating ways. He had, however, buried his treasure, like all good pirates did, and killed the crew who helped him, so that their ghosts could guard the booty. When it was discovered some years later, the exposed metal chest sank back beneath the sand, before a ghostly pirate jumped out at the treasure hunters and scared them back to their ship. In more modern times, the doomed World War I submarine UB-65 was plagued by ghostly disasters. It frequently broke down, almost causing the deaths of crew on board with a toxic gas. Crew members inexplicably would jump to their deaths from the bow, and after a torpedo killed many of the crew, including an officer, his ghost was seen many times by terrified sailors, claiming to have seen the officer come aboard. He was seen one last time after the submarine was found mysteriously abandoned. It exploded shortly after, and the spirit of the doomed officer was seen on the bow as it sank beneath the waves. Tomorrow, day 8, takes us to one of the most haunted villages in England. Don't miss it. On to day 8 of our 31 days of Halloween, and we have to get into this one quick, because today we're exploring a town with at least 12 ghosts. The village of Pluckley in southeast England was in the Guinness Book of Records in 1989 for being the most haunted village in the UK. Over the years, ghosts have been reported at almost every landmark in the small town, terrifying residents and visitors alike. Coming into the town, you might be confronted by the ghost of the highwayman, who would jump out, rob and maybe even kill unsuspecting travellers at the area known as Fright Corner. Close by is the ghost of the gypsy woman who was burned to death under mysterious circumstances, and the black ghost of the old miller who only appears before a thunderstorm. More notable spirits are the ghost of the headmaster, who sadly hanged himself from a laurel tree, his ghostly body still visible on dark nights, swinging from the branch. The ghost of a screaming man who died in a terrible accident, smothered by a wall of clay, still screaming as he did when he died. And a phantom monk who haunts the halls of the grand house of Greystones. I think I might have to pay a visit to this village. Its spookiness is too intriguing. I'll also do a longer video on this when our 31 days of Halloween is over, because there's so many good stories. Come back tomorrow for day 9, we'll be discussing ghosts from around the world. There's one thing that every country around the world has in common: ghosts. Welcome back to our 31 days of Halloween on day 9, and today we're looking at what spirits have appeared in what countries around the globe. Legends and superstition change and evolve around the world according to many factors, such as faith and belief. The deformed ghosts of Japan were thought to be the spirits of people who were evil in their lives. They have no legs and their entire lower body is on fire. A Bhuta from several cultures of the Indian subcontinent is a restless and disturbed ghost that has been prevented from moving on. This could be due to a violent death, an unresolved matter in their lives, or improper burial. It is said to haunt dilapidated buildings, forests, or even cremation grounds. The people of the Banks Island believed that certain stones were haunted by eating ghosts who would steal your soul. The stones would be kept in vacant properties to scare away prospective thieves. Tomorrow we'll be looking at real accounts of ghost hunting. I'll see you there. Day 10 of 31 days of Halloween, and let's take a look at how people turn the tables, and instead of ghosts finding them, they hunt the ghosts. Professional ghost hunters, scientists and psychic researchers have been looking for proof of the supernatural for decades. It's a phenomenon that has swept the world, with hundreds of thousands of investigations occurring at known paranormal hotspots. Sophisticated electronic equipment has been invented to detect specific environmental changes associated with ghosts, such as temperature and electronic forces. People might call in investigators when strange things start happening in their homes, or it might be a big televised event, such as the Most Haunted series.
No one's moving around upstairs. What? Don't leave me in here! What? I can't.
Bloody arse
What's the matter?
here.
What's the matter?
Over there by where the ale comes in. I'm serious, I'm not taking the piss or nothing like that. There, right there. Something was there. I'll tell you now, something was there. I'm serious, on my life. Something was there. Something was there.
It can be argued that proof has most definitely been found, with an overwhelming amount of footage all over the internet. Some quite obvious fakes, but some much harder to explain, such as when skeptics go into an investigation fully prepared to see nothing, but end up running for their lives. See you tomorrow for day 11. We'll be looking through the most famous photos ever taken of real ghosts. Actual proof of the existence of ghosts? That's what we're looking to find out on day 11 of our 31 days of Halloween, with arguably 3 of the most famous ghost photos of all time. Let's take a look. In 1959 in Ipswich, England, Mrs. Mabel Chinnery and her husband went to visit the grave of Mabel's dead mother to pay their respects, as they did every year. Mabel had been given a new camera, and keen to try it out, she took a picture of her husband in the car at the graveyard. The photo caused Mabel to burst into tears when she got it developed, when she recognised the face of her dead mother sitting in the back of the seat of the car. The Newby monk is the ghost in this picture, taken by the vicar at the Newby Church in 1963. He saw nothing out of the ordinary at the time of taking the photo, but when developed, the huge figure of a monk covering its face with a white cloth, possibly due to leprosy or another disfigurement, is seen at the altar. The scale of the figure would put it at least 8 feet tall. One of the most famous hauntings in the UK is that of the Brown Lady of Rainham Hall, so named because of the dated brocade brown dress she wears. She was reportedly Dorothy Walpole, wife of Charles Townshend, who was notorious for his violent temper. She stayed at Rainham Hall until she died from smallpox in 1726. She has been seen by visitors and residents haunting the halls, and is said to have empty eye sockets, dark and a glowing face. The photo claiming to have captured her ghost was taken by photographers from Country Life magazine, doing an article on the property. Come back tomorrow for day 12 and we'll be delving into the next Bible, the Usborne Book of the Haunted World. See you then. I'm in big trouble. My book didn't arrive on time, so here we are, just wildly deviating from the plan of following our 90s Usborne ghost books. And instead, for day 12 of our 31 days of Halloween, we're going to dive into my favourite ghost story of all time, the haunted Stocksbridge bypass. In the 1990s, a new section of road was opened near Sheffield to bypass the town of Stocksbridge. Opened on Friday the 13th, it was plagued by reports of the supernatural from day one. A security guard for the construction saw children playing in a field at midnight, far from any houses, who simply disappeared when approached. Runners and drivers on the road saw entities speed towards them, only to vanish when they got close. Another set of security guards during their night shift saw a figure on top of the nearby road bridge, dressed in a brown robe, like a monk. When they went to shine the lights on it, the light shone straight through, and then the figure disappeared. They were so terrified that one of the guards quit 3 days later, and the other refused to ever go back. Police were called to investigate the disturbances, and were horrified by what they encountered. As they sat at the bridge where the monk had been spotted, there appeared, pressed against the window of the police car, the torso of someone with a V-neck robe. First at the right side window, then at the left. They tried to start the car to drive away, but it would not start at first. They heard a loud bang, which they described as the sound of someone hitting the car with a baseball bat, before they revved the engine and fled. People believe that the construction of the bypass disturbed something such as a burial ground or medieval holy ground, and released something evil. Come back tomorrow where I hope my book will have arrived and we can delve into 90s spooky lore. See you then. We've made it to day 13, which is officially one more day than I managed last year, and the new book has arrived, so we'll be diving into the Usborne Book of the Haunted World. And our first stories are the terrifying tales of haunted houses. Let's take a look. Famous for both its gruesome murders and its hauntings is the house in Amityville, where in 1973 Ronald DeFeo shot and killed his parents, 2 brothers and 2 sisters. The next family to move into the house were the Lutzes. They were at first thrilled with their new home, until unexplained phenomena started keeping them up at night. At 3:15 a.m. every night, the exact time Ronald carried out his terrible act, the Lutzes would hear eerie noises, windows and doors opened on their own, and the imprints of cloven hooves would appear outside. They ran for their lives when slime started to ooze out of the walls and keyholes, never to return. Skeptics have debated if it was all just a big scam. The Lutzes made a lot of money out of their story, but the lack of evidence of any faking and the fact they've stuck to their version of events make it a very intriguing tale. In a pretty little cottage in the village of Belmez in Spain, a woman started to experience some ghostly apparitions in her kitchen in 1971. One night, her grandchild suddenly pointed to the ground looking terrified. When she went to look, she saw a face staring up at her, its eyes wide and face contorted in pain. Many more appeared over the years. No amount of scrubbing could make the faces disappear, and she even tried to dig up the floor and have it replaced, but to no avail. The faces only disappeared when investigators placed equipment in the kitchen to monitor the paranormal activity. The faces have not returned. Yet. Tomorrow we'll be looking at possibly the most famous site of torture and death in the whole world, the Tower of London, and the poor tortured souls that still wander there. See you then. I am so happy to be going through this book again, taking me right back to the 90s and when my curiosity of the paranormal all started. Today, on day 14 of our 31 Days of Halloween, we're continuing with the Usborne Book of the Haunted World and the spirits that have been plaguing the historic monument of the Tower of London. The Tower of London is synonymous with torture and death. It's unsurprising then that the place is riddled with ghosts. Sir Walter Raleigh, who spent 13 years in the tower waiting for execution, has been seen still pacing in his cell, his spirit still waiting. Similarly, Guy Fawkes, who was tortured and executed for plotting to blow up the Houses of Parliament in 1605, is heard screaming for mercy during the night. Anne Boleyn, Henry VIII's second wife, beheaded for the crime of not bearing him a son in 1536, has been seen roaming the halls, her white ghost spotted in the tower frequently. In 1864, a guard tried to stab her apparition with his bayonet, so terrified was he of seeing her walking through a solid wooden door. Perhaps the saddest tale of all is the ghosts of the two little princes, Edward and Richard, 12 and 10 years old, who were imprisoned and murdered in the tower in 1483 because they were heirs to the English throne. They were seen frequently in the years that followed. The killer was never found, but the prince's uncle, Richard, was suspected as he became king in their stead. In 1674, some builders found a chest with two small skeletons inside. The spirits of the boys were no longer seen after their bones had a proper burial. Meet me back here tomorrow for our daily seance and we can have a look at some more haunted residences, including a big one, the family who made the Winchester rifle. Seriously, don't miss it. Welcome back to day 15 of 31 Days of Halloween, where we're travelling across continents to explore two of the most haunted houses in the world. Borley Rectory in England and the Winchester Ghost House in America. Let's start in Essex, England, at Borley Rectory. Built in 1862 by Reverend Henry Bull, it sat on the site of an ancient monastery. From the very beginning, strange things happened here. Servants heard ghostly footsteps, bells that rang when no one was there, and the chilling sight of a nun gliding silently across the garden, or peering through windows. According to legend, she had fallen in love with a monk centuries earlier. When their affair was discovered, he was executed, and she was bricked up alive within the walls of the priory. After Reverend Bull's death, the new occupants continued to report hauntings. Phantom voices, disembodied writing appearing on the walls, and even objects flying through the air. The house's sinister reputation drew the attention of paranormal investigator Harry Price in the 1930s. He rented Borley Rectory for a full year, bringing in journalists, scientists and mediums to document the phenomena. What they recorded was terrifying. Cold spots, stones that were hurled from nowhere, and a spectral coach racing through the garden. In 1939, the rectory mysteriously burned to the ground, but even today, people claim to see ghostly lights flickering where it once stood. Across the Atlantic, the Winchester Ghost House in San Jose, California, belonged to Sarah Winchester, the widow of the man who created the Winchester rifle. After losing her husband and infant daughter, Sarah was consumed by grief. A medium told her that her family was cursed and that the countless souls killed by Winchester rifles were seeking revenge, and she must build a house to appease them. So in 1886, Sarah began constructing a sprawling mansion that grew endlessly for 38 years. Workers laboured day and night under her direction. Staircases led to ceilings, doors opened onto brick walls, and twisting corridors looped back on themselves. Every night, Sarah would retreat into a séance room and consult the spirits about what to build next. When Sarah Winchester died in 1922, the mansion stood 7 stories high with over 160 rooms. Visitors have since reported cold spots, the sound of hammering when no one is there, and ghostly footsteps echoing through the halls at night.